Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and today I have the LG G2 to unbox and to take a look at. Today in the Android world, huge screen devices are all the rage. Everything from the 6.4-inch display on the Xperia Z Ultra to the 5-inch display on the Galaxy S4. Now of course LG has their own solutions. The G2 has a display that's 5.2 inches, somewhere in between the other two huge guys. But what I've been hearing about this display is it's really excellent, and I'm very excited to unbox it and to take a look at its beautifulness in all its glory. But before I do that, I really want to thank Negri Electronics for sending this device out to me for a week to look at. I have personally purchased from them before and it was a really excellent experience. They sell the latest and greatest unlocked devices when I need them, and also their customer service is really excellent. So they are an Erica certified place to get tech stuffs. So thank you Negri, and let's go and take a look at this guy. Now before I open up this puppy, there are some specifications that I want to take a look at on the box. Now, a lot of you have heard a lot about this device, so I'm sure there's not much that's going to shock you on here in terms of specifications. This has got the Snapdragon S800 SoC. It's got 4 Cray cores clocked at 2.3 GHz or measured 2.26 GHz. This is the higher bend version of the S800 processor. Sony had released the Xperia Z Ultra with the 2.2 GHz version of the S800 processor. So basically this is just a lower voltage version and it's at a higher clock speed or higher frequency. So this is technically the better version of the S800. It's also got 2 GB of LPDDR3 RAM, which is fantastic. It's got a full HD IPS display. Now if you take a look here on the box, it says 2610 mAh battery. This device normally comes with a 3000 mAh non-removable battery. This looks like it's the Korean version. I'm hearing that the Korean version has a removable battery. It's a little bit smaller, but it seems that it also has an SD card slot. So I'm curious to check that out. So let's go ahead and pull the plastic off this thing and get our grubby little fingers all over it. Gonna use a nice drawing pencil to try to get through this plastic here. It's always like Christmas morning when opening up a brand new device. I love it. Not sure if this is the black or the white. I think it's black. And indeed it is black. Let's go ahead and grab it out. Ooh. Wow, this is surprisingly small in hand. I really did expect to see a phone that was much bigger. You can see that we have the Galaxy S4 right next to it, and it's just a little bit bigger. It is indeed a little bit wider, and it's thicker. But there is no battery inside of this right now, so indeed it does have a removable battery. Try to figure out how to open this. I found the antenna, because them Koreans actually have TV streamed to their phones. Ah, here we are. We have this little indentation, so I shall open it up from here. Ooh, yes. And yes, indeed, those smug, lucky people, they get a micro SD card slot. Ha! Looks like you've got your NFC antenna there. Let's go ahead and see what comes in the box with this guy. Set that aside. There's a little insert here. It looks like they're trying to instruct how to use the knock-on function. We've got cute little graphics. Life's good. Little anime-esque manual that you have here. Alright, so you've got the normal goodies. We've got some type of a power adapter. Got some Quad Beat 2 earphones, premium earphones. This looks like it is a charging station. Yes, battery charger. Oh, how incredibly lucky are they? Since they do get a tiny bit smaller battery, they're actually getting an extra battery. They've got a nice charging station. And they've got the battery that's already coming inside of the phone itself. Wow, you lucky people. This is really nice. Checking out the bands on this version, since this is quite interesting and you can get this off Negri very easily. It looks like some areas for AT&T that I can get service. It looks like it has the 1900 band, but it's missing the 850 band, and it doesn't have any of the LTE bands that I need. So I'll have to see how this connects to my network. So before we get this started up, let's take a look around the phone itself. On the back, you have got your 13 megapixel sensor here. You can decide to record at 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, although I'm seeing that it's technically 58 frames per second. You've got a single LED flash. You've got your power button and the volume rocker. I'm very interested to try this out, see how I like it. On the top here, you have an IR blaster. The plastic covers this. It's got a little lens, it looks like. Completely bare on the side here. completely bare on the other side. It actually makes it quite practical to have a back cover that can be removable because there is nothing obstructing the back cover to be pressed on or taken off. It makes sense, really it does. The bottom is a busy bee. It's got all kinds of little things here. You've got your standard headphone jack. You've got speakers here, or at least one of them's a speaker and the other one's probably a microphone. And then you've got your micro USB port, charging and whatnot. On the front, you have a 2.1 megapixel front-facing camera. You've got your proximity sensor right here. I'm wondering where that notification LED is. And you've got your receiver. I'm going to start taking off all these plastic bits so I can fully appreciate that gorgeous display once I turn it on. This is just hilarious. This reminds me of those old Motorola phones. When I was at MWC, I had a chance to see the LG booth, looking at their Korean version as well, so this is something that's actually common. Although I feel a little bit bad for those Koreans, because this is hard to get back in place. Now, one of these batteries has got to have some juice in it. Let's go with the one that has not been stuck inside some packaging. Seriously, so lucky. Oh my gosh. So let's go ahead and put the back cover on. With that battery in, this is still a very light device. This is not heavy at all. Really, I expected something so much bigger. Let's go ahead and start powering this guy on, and I want to also take some other devices that I have next to me and compare sizes. So I believe you hold this down for a few seconds. LG, that is turning on. So I have a Galaxy Note 2, I also have an iPhone 5, and I've got an Xperia Z Ultra. We should probably do a device pile-up so you can see some comparisons here. So we have the Xperia Z Ultra, this is the Galaxy Note 2, we've got the LG G2, we've got the Galaxy S4, which is really about the same size. And then we also have the iPhone 5. Let's see if I can go ahead and zoom in on that just a little bit so you can see where all those edges line up. So in the scheme of things, I am now calling this a mid-range device, in terms of size anyway. The first impression that I have of this phone is that it is all screen. It feels like there is no bezel on this at all. It's like a screen is just projecting at my face. This looks incredibly sharp. I want to take a look and do some measurements with this. I'm going to be doing a later video where I do some measurements and I really get to the bottom of what's going on with this phone, and that will be released within a week as I only get a week with this device. But wow, this is quite a display. Alright, I've been playing with this a little bit, and the first thing that needs to go is those notifications, the Vienna Boys Choir. It scared the crap out of me as soon as I heard a notification for my email. It says something like, "Life is good!" Oh. I've realized that I've been pretty much trained by Samsung devices as to how it's supposed to be held and how I'm supposed to turn it on. I'm expecting to see a power button right here, but no, they have cleverly placed it on the back. It's taking me some time right now to get used to, positioning my finger and such, but I can easily find it. It's not very difficult. But if I can't get used to those buttons on the back, I can easily just tap it twice and it should turn the display on, so that's really nice as an option. I do not understand why somebody did not come out with that earlier, but we're going to see in a few days how I feel about these buttons here. Does anybody really hold their phone that way? Maybe I've had to make some adjustments because of how tiny my hands are. But yeah, I'll bite. I can see that somebody would hold their hand like that, keep their finger about yay there. Because the power button is raised right here, it makes quite a distinction between these volume rockers, so I don't think I'll be fingering around pressing the wrong thing. Nothing happens when the display is off and you press those volume buttons. And we do have a little bit of an indentation here, and you can see that the plastic is raised up a little bit as well. So if you place this down on the table, you're not going to be pressing on that button or turning it on. So back to where I was before I got freaked out by the Vienna Boys Choir singing notification. Looking at the whites, they don't seem overly blue to me, although it doesn't look like what was claimed by GSM Arena, where they're telling me it's somewhere around 6,500 Kelvin. The closer the whites are to 6,500 Kelvin, the more neutral they are. If you have higher than 600 Kelvin, you're having whites that are starting to look a little bit on the cool side or the blue side, and if you're going below 6,500 Kelvin, you start having whites that end up looking warmer. So that is something that I'll find out with the measurements. The display is really nice and bright. This is an IPS display and viewing angles are pretty decent. I'm not seeing color shifting or anything like that. That looks like a familiar friend from Samsung now, doesn't it? It is really nice to have access right here to my slider, and also we have auto, so for auto brightness there is a toggle here. Also, like Samsung phones, you have a slider at the top to get to various quick settings. Ooh, software update. So there's a couple enhancements, apps, camera, improved knock on. Okay, yeah, install now. I don't care if the battery's low. Install now. Ooh, okay, so that's interesting. If I try to install, it will not let me install unless I am connected to a charger if it deems that the battery is low. In which case, this looks like it's like 40% possibly. I don't consider that low though. Interesting. So I went and looked into some of the settings and played around with some of the settings as well. I can see that this is Android Jelly Bean 4.2.2, but this is one of the most heavily skinned versions that I have ever seen of Android. There's a lot of things that you can do to personalize your device. I will have a chance to really check these out as I go along, but one of the interesting things that you can change are these front buttons that are on the bottom. If you go ahead and select front buttons, you can see that there's various different bars that you can choose. One thing that I see is absent entirely from here is the task switcher or the recent app switcher, and I'm not really liking that. So let's just be a minimalist and choose the one that I had that was default, which is back, home, and you've also got menu. But you can see that these extra ones, you have Launch Quick Memo, which is this one here. There's a little pen. And then you have one for pull down notification panel. And I find that to be a little bit pointless. Why didn't they add this one as a task switcher button as well? How hard is it to pull down like that, honestly? So let's go ahead and do this. If you actually want to get to your task switcher, you need to hold down on the home button for a couple of seconds, and there you go. You've got your task switcher, but at least they include clear all under here, because that's something that's give or take, because it's not included originally. We've got some kind of interesting Samsung-esque functionality on here. You can see that there was an area called Smart On. We are now underneath display settings. And this is going to work like Smart Stay, and then we have Smart Video, which works like Smart Pause, so if you weren't looking at the screen, then the video is going to pause. You've also got some interesting settings under Advanced Settings. We have some choices for our notification LED. You can decide to have it enabled or not. And there's actually two different notification LEDs on this phone. You can see that there's the notification LED right here, and then you've also got one on the back side as well. So for example, I can choose if I want it to light up for incoming call, if I'm in call, and I can also choose it when there's an alarm going off, so watch this. Kind of a purplish in color. You can barely see that it's on. It would be really cool if I could customize the color for this one. For the front LED, they give you predetermined choices, but you can download an application. I think it's called Light Flow or something, and it lets you choose what color you want for the different notifications. We've got some gesture settings, such as our knock on, answer me, where like on a Samsung phone, you can put this to your ear and it's going to answer a phone call. We've got an area to choose one-handed operations. We've got some battery saver settings. When you've got battery saver on, you can choose to disable some of these settings. You can also choose where you want the brightness to be at and when. I'm noticing that this battery saver setting is only applicable to 30% battery level. I don't see anywhere I could change that. That would be nice. We've also got an interesting feature that's called Slide Aside. It's kind of nice. I think it's almost functioning as a second app switcher. So the idea is if I'm running an application and I want to keep it still running in easy reach, I can take 3 fingers and swipe to the left. You can see it says app saved, so there's 3 applications saved. I can take 3 fingers and then swipe to the right, and you can see that I've got a couple different things that are running here. I can easily select those, or I can get rid of them by swiping upward. Would I ever use that? Probably not. It's a little bit weird. I think it's kind of gimmicky, but it's an interesting concept. We can also easily set up a guest mode, and that is something that I actually would use. I have a lot of siblings, I have a lot of family, there is a lot of people always picking up my stuff, looking at it, trying to use it, so that's great. I can easily just turn off the phone, go ahead and turn it back on, and then I made some type of pattern to get into guest mode only, and voila, that's actually really nice. You can choose what applications you want people to be able to access inside of guest mode, so overall it's a handy setting. I've never seen this before. If you want, you can pick an icon such as the Google Play Store. Just say you don't like how this icon looks. Hold on to it. You'll see that there's a paintbrush. You can actually customize the look of your icons. You can choose any that they have inside the icon gallery, or if you want to, you can customize your own. That's spiffy. That's very, very different. I actually like that. You've got the ability to apply themes. It looks like you can download other themes from LG Smart World. So this is a very customizable device. They've also got something interesting that you can do with the widgets. You can go ahead and hold down on a widget, place it on the screen. Not only can you resize it, but you can size it all the way down to being the natural icon that's included inside the system. Weird. I'm really curious about gameplay. I'm curious about the camera. These are all the things that I'm going to have to check out to see how they perform. Oh, NFS Most Wanted doesn't work on this device just yet. Not quite supported. So I'll have a chance to test out some other games and see how smooth this device looks. When looking at the thermal deconfiguration file, I am seeing that there is no GPU throttling. There is CPU throttling, but the first point it throttles down to is 1.5 gigahertz, and that's not bad. I do feel that this phone gets a bit warm once you start playing games, but at least when you're playing those games, your GPU is not throttling, so you shouldn't start losing out on power. So I will be able to give you a conclusion about the gameplay in a couple of days. Thus far, I'm really liking this device. It feels very light in hand, although it might be a little bit heavier with the 3000 mAh battery. It feels a lot like a more rounded, less buttoned Galaxy S4, honestly. And I am honestly really curious about this display. I can tell that they're oversaturating things, especially reds, but I will be giving you a better conclusion about that in a little bit. It's time to spend some quality time with my little friend here, and I'll get back to you guys soon. So thank you everybody for watching. This has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Like I said, in a couple of days I'm going to be giving a more in-depth conclusions about what I feel about this device. By that time I'll have a chance to see how it works on my network and what the compatibility with that is as well. Seriously, you Korean people are very lucky. When you start filming things at 60 frames per second, it's really nice to have an expansion card slot. This shall be interesting. Have a good night, everybody!